Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And it's our news unit for the month of May, News Digest. And we're going to Japan to talk about the nuclear power plant there that kind of had some problems after the earthquake and tsunami back in 2011. But I guess they're trying to repurpose the place.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. It was kind of scary for us here. First of all, a lot of people in Taiwan like to go to Japan on vacation, which I understand. It's pretty lovely there. But we also get a lot of our fish from over there.
Right.
So I was a little nervous about whether the fish would be, filled with some sort of nuclear energy, But yeah, they've turned a bad thing into a good thing. And we're going to talk about what this clean energy production's like now in Japan.
Yep, that's what they are trying to do. They're trying to get find a new purpose for clean energy production at Fukushima in Japan. So let's find out what this is all about. Let's read through the entire contents, and then we'll be right back to discuss it. Plans are in development to turn the grounds of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, located in northeastern Japan, into an extensive renewable energy project. In 2011, Fukushima was the scene of the second worst nuclear accident in history when a destructive earthquake and tsunami caused a meltdown that sent immense quantities of radiation into the atmosphere and forced 150,000 residents to evacuate. The government is now promising an ambitious project to turn the grounds into a renewable energy hub consisting of 11 solar power plants and 10 wind power plants. The local government anticipates that it will produce 100% of the Fukushima region's energy needs by 2040. These plans are sure to please environmental and anti-nuclear advocates. It wasn't until the Fukushima disaster that the Japanese government comprehended the hazards of nuclear power, and all of the country's 54 reactors were later shut down as a result. Although some reactors have been cautiously restarted, Japan is directing future energy plans away from nuclear production. The country became more dependent on coal and natural gas after the disaster, but this too may decline as Japan shifts toward renewable energy. Designs for the Fukushima project include fields of solar panels and wind turbines that will be installed on abandoned farmland. Critics note that the project will only produce 2/3 of a typical nuclear plant's output. However, the benefits of a clean energy grid could encourage further investments in new energy-producing technologies and steer Japan away from oil and gas. Whether or not this project reaches its goals, the Fukushima Energy Hub will test how feasible such intensive investments in renewable energy might be and help demonstrate realistic clean energy solutions to the world.
Okay, guys, we're going to be talking about Fukushima. That's where the nuclear power plant was located. And in 2011, I'm sure a lot of our listeners remember, there was a tsunami and an earthquake, and everyone was scared to death about the nuclear power plant. It had a meltdown. So they're trying to find a new purpose in clean energy production. Now, if you're into clean energy, you know that nuclear power is very clean. But there are also some dangers that come along with that. So sometimes, you have to weigh your options. I mean, do you need more energy? Because sometimes the wind energy isn't enough or solar power isn't enough. Do you need energy badly enough to put up with the danger? Well, they're trying to turn a leaf here. They're trying to get away from nuclear power as much as they can. So they're changing what they're doing out there at Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Now, remember, it's located in northeastern Japan, and they're turning it into an extensive renewable energy project. Renewable means even though you use something, it's capable of being renewed. Renewable energy would include water power, wind power, solar power. Even though we use that, there's still more left when we're done.
Yeah, there's more wind, there's no sun, or there's more sun, etc. Non-renewables would be like coal or petroleum. Once you burn that stuff, it's gone. But in this particular case, if you have solar power or if you have wind power, you supposedly can use it for a really, really long time. Now, in 2011, which was almost 10 years ago, Fukushima was the scene of the second worst nuclear accident in history, when a destructive earthquake and tsunami caused a meltdown that sent immense quantities of radiation into the atmosphere and forced 150,000 residents to evacuate. Ooh, that is a long sentence. It's basically telling us all about this incident that happened way back in 2011. Maybe some of you remember that. Now, Fukushima, that's Fudao in Chinese, Fukushima in Japanese. Where's that? Well, that is in Japan, and that was the scene of a nuclear accident. Okay, it was the second worst one in history. I think the worst one was at Chernobyl. Is that how you pronounce it?
Chernobyl.
In Ukraine there?
Chernobyl,
yeah. Okay, not 3 Mile Island, but it was the one in Ukraine, Soviet Union at the time, and this was the second worst one in history. And then this sentence goes on to tell us exactly what happened. First of all, they had a destructive earthquake. Okay, we know what an earthquake is, living here in Taiwan, and that caused a big tsunami, which is a really big wave that comes in from the ocean. And those two things, the earthquake and the tsunami, caused a meltdown at the nuclear power plant. A meltdown is when there's too much fuel in a certain area and it gets really hot and things start melting, and then that resulted in a lot of radiation being sent into the atmosphere. Now, radiation, of course, is what happens when atoms decay, when they fall apart, and then you've got these subatomic particles coming out of the atoms, and they're bad for you, okay? If you're exposed to radiation, it could cause cancer and other nasty problems.
Right. Going back to meltdown briefly, we'll often use this as a figurative phrase. For example, if someone loses their temper and they're just so angry they can't control themselves, you might say, yeah, the boss had a meltdown when he found out what happened. So sometimes we'll use it in that way as well. But as Tom said, this is an accident where the nuclear reactor overheats. The fuel overheats and it melts that core that's in the center, and that's very dangerous. You can also say, for example, the stock market had a meltdown. Maybe one day the stocks fell 5%, 7%, something like that. You could say, wow, the stock market had a meltdown today. So we use it in both ways, literal, as we do with the nuclear reactor, and figurative as well. It sent lots of radiation into the atmosphere, and it also forced a lot of people to evacuate. I remember the thing that was pretty horrifying to me, at least, was the results of the tsunami. Not so much the earthquake, we're used to that, but I couldn't believe that the waves of the ocean would go so far inland and just destroy homes and sweep people off out into the water, and they were never discovered, never recovered again. We use this word evacuate when there's been some sort of natural disaster, some sort of accident, where people are forced to leave a place that's full of danger and try to find a place that's safer.
Right. You might see people evacuating areas in Taiwan if there's a really big typhoon coming or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if a tsunami is coming. We haven't had one in Taiwan for many, many years. Hopefully it won't happen anytime soon. So again, this is pretty scary here. What happened back in 2011 or 2011. There was this earthquake, tsunami, and it caused a meltdown at the nuclear power plant. and there was a lot of radiation released into the atmosphere, and lots of people had to evacuate. And I think because of the radiation, people in Taiwan did not want to import food from that part of Japan because they were afraid that it would have radiation in it.
Which causes cancer sometimes.
Which causes cancer. Nobody wants to get cancer. That's a horrible thing. And so that I don't know if they've reinstated the imports from Japan yet or not. I haven't been keeping track of that. But in any case, there you go. That's basically the accident in a nutshell. So I guess now they can actually go ahead and try to do something else with this nuclear power plant. So the government is now promising an ambitious project to turn the grounds or the facilities, the area there, into a renewable energy hub consisting of 11 solar power plants and 10 wind power plants. So they're going to change it, or at least adapt it, into a renewable energy hub. A hub is kind of like a central area, like for airlines, sometimes they fly into hubs, like Hong Kong is a regional hub. I think maybe Singapore is a regional hub as well. Lots of flights go in there before you change planes and then fly to someplace else.
Yeah, you fly to smaller cities once you go into the hub. Yeah, so they're trying to take the grounds there. Grounds here just means the area of land around the nuclear power plant. We'll often use grounds to talk about like fairgrounds. If there's a carnival or a fair, the grounds are just the land where that fair is set up. You know, you could ride fun rides, you know, like roller coasters and carousels, those sorts of things. But I wanted to mention, if you're talking about a college campus, they have a lot of grounds there. We actually just refer to that, though, as campus.
Right.
So the grounds are used, though, for other places that have a lot of land around them. So, yeah, they want to use this area, which was really just focused on nuclear power, but they're changing things now. They want to turn it into an energy hub, as Tom said, and they're going to be using 11 solar power plants and 10 wind power plants in this one area. The local government anticipates that it will produce 100% of the Fukushima region's energy needs by 2040. Currently, that's not the case, but they're hoping that by the time 2040 rolls around, that this area of that we're calling the grounds of the Fukushima nuclear power plant, the grounds, will actually be home to renewable energy sources that will take care of that area's needs.
It will be interesting to see if they can pull this off, if they're able to produce 100% of the power there from renewable sources. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in today's lesson. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello, my name is Shelby. 新闻写作第一段是最重要的主题，接着次之，最后是其他细节。第一段就直奔主题。第一句，多项计划正在展开，要将福岛核电厂的周遭变成一个大规模的再生能源计划。第一句的动词词组 are in development。develop 是发展，所以这里也是表示仍在进行，可以写成 are being developed。in 也可以用另外一个介系词 under 来表示，意思是一样的。后面接着说 to turn ... into 将什么变成什么。后面说的 ground 原来是指土地地面，这是不可数。可是这里加上 s 表示说它是有特殊用途的场地。第二句的地方，2011年福岛发生史上第2惨烈的核灾。我们看到 scene 这个生字。Scene 是指场景，例如 a wedding scene 结婚场所，或者 a scene of the disaster 悲剧的发生现场。另外它也可以搭配动词 make the scene 表示大吵大闹。毁灭性的地震和海啸导致了炉心的熔毁。A meltdown 就是熔毁，可以引申为灾难崩溃的意思。例如说 a financial meltdown 就是指金融的灾难。因为这样子呢，后面说大量的辐射外泄，居民被迫离开。好 ，immense quantities of 是指大量的， quantity 数量，前面如果加上数量形容词，例如 large 或者 small， 或者像这边的 immense 巨大的，它就是表示数量的多寡，再加 of 加名词。要注意的是它的名词是没有生命的，例如这里的 radiation 辐射，或者我们说大量的啤酒就可以用 quantity a large quantity of beer。第二段，那新能源包含哪些设施？第一句的地方，政府许诺一些野心勃勃的计划，要将这场地变成再生能源的 hub 枢纽。例如 The hub of airline traffic 就是航运中心，后面用 consisting of 分词构句来形容， consist of 动词变语表示包含。它的用法整体加 consist of 再加部分，相当于 contain, comprise 或 include 这些动词。它呢要写成主动，不可以用被动。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about a piece of news. Fukushima, which is located in northeastern Japan, has decided to take the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that had the meltdown in 2011 and turn it into an area of renewable energy sources. For example, wind energy and solar energy. When we left you, we had finished the second paragraph. Let's move on to the third paragraph. These plans that they've come up with are sure to please environmental and anti-nuclear advocates. So if you're an environmental advocate, they're always concerned about clean energy. They want things that don't pollute the earth, like coal and fossil fuels. Although nuclear power can be dangerous, but we'll see what happens. Currently, I think they had such a horrible disaster in 2011. I think probably the Japanese people don't even want to hear the word nuclear power for a long time. It was a very scary time for them, although I've read that no one was directly killed by that, by the nuclear power plant having a meltdown, but still can be dangerous.
Yeah, there are people who are against nuclear power, so we're calling them anti-nuclear advocates. An advocate is somebody who supports a particular policy, and they do all sorts of things to support that policy. So they're anti-nuclear advocates. They want to promote renewable energy like solar power and stuff like that. And I suppose there are lots of anti-nuclear advocates here in Taiwan because they were all against the fourth nuclear power plant in Gongliao. And it's still standing there, but I don't think it's ever going to start.
Is it running? Oh, really?
I think it's probably never going to start operation because of anti-nuclear advocates. We could say that. But it wasn't until the Fukushima disaster that the Japanese government comprehended the hazards of nuclear power. And all of the country's 54 reactors were later shut down as a result. We've got power plants, but sometimes they have more than one reactor. A reactor, of course, is where the nuclear reaction takes place. They put some kind of a material in there like uranium or something, and they control a nuclear reaction with control rods, and that heats up water and runs turbines and things like that. So there are 54 reactors in Japan, but they were all shut down because they were all scared. Wow, look what happened at Fukushima. The government realized the hazards of nuclear power. So here we've got the word hazard, which means something that is bad, something that causes a lot of danger or risk. A hazard, a nuclear hazard, for example. There are all sorts of hazards in the world.
I wanted to mention, going back to an earlier vocabulary word, advocate. That's the noun form of this word. It's a person who is publicly supporting or committed to some sort of cause. They could actually be committed to supporting a person. If you have a lawyer or an attorney who goes to court to plead your case, technically they're an advocate for you. But the verb form of this word, which is spelled the same, is pronounced differently. You can advocate. that you can advocate for something or advocate on behalf of someone. Right here, though, this is the noun form advocate. We've got some tricky words like that. You already know graduate is the verb, but graduate is the person. You just got to be a little bit more careful there. So yeah, shut down all those nuclear power plants, 54 reactors. That's a lot of reactors. Although some reactors have been cautiously restarted since they were all shut down for good reason. Japan is directing future energy plans away from nuclear production. If you do something cautiously, you're very careful about it. You just don't jump in and do something. You take your time, maybe think it through. Don't move too quickly. Do it cautiously. I fell down and hurt my back a couple of months ago, and I remember it knocked the breath out of me, and I cautiously decided to stand up after it happened. I didn't know if I'd broken anything. So cautiously, you're very, very careful. So they have started some of the reactors back up, but in the future, they want to focus their energy efforts. Maybe they're scientists, they're putting them to work to come up with some better renewable energy sources. Wind isn't always the best, and solar power works until you don't have any sun. So you need some other ways to produce renewable energy. It says here the country became more dependent on coal and natural gas after the disaster. These are not renewable energy sources, and they cause a lot of pollution. But it says here, but this too may decline or decrease as Japan shifts toward renewable energy.
Okay, so there you have it. That's what they're planning to do in the future in Japan there. So moving on to the next paragraph here, it says, designs for the Fukushima project include fields of solar panels and wind turbines that will be installed on abandoned farmland. So you all know what solar power is. It's got those solar panels, those big boards basically that are kind of black. They absorb the sunlight and turn it into electricity. And then wind turbines. They look like big windmills, but they're actually called wind turbines. And they're going to put all that stuff on farmland that has been abandoned. Okay, the farmers left. They went someplace else so they can use the land to set up these solar power plants and wind power plants. And critics note that the project will only produce 2/3 of a typical nuclear plant's output. So, of course, there are people who are against this particular idea. These are critics. A critic, of course, is somebody who says, hey, there's something wrong with that. This is not going to produce as much power as a nuclear plant can.
Got to come up with something that helps keep our earth clean. So it says here, however, the benefits or the good parts of a clean energy grid could encourage further investments in new energy producing technologies and steer Japan away from oil and gas. So we know already that we've invested a lot in these clean energy companies that have gone bankrupt. They found nothing. So we need to be wise about this as well. Your grid, it's a way we refer to how you get your electricity. There are people nowadays who are trying to get off the grid or live off the grid, where their water is pumped from a well that they dig themselves on their property. Their energy is from solar panels that they have on their homes. They don't actually use any of your city's electricity or, power that way. You're living off the grid if you're just producing your energy alone. But they would like to keep encouraging people to invest in new energy producing technologies. Now, here, steer is usually used when you're talking about directing your car or even a tractor, a boat, to go a certain direction. But here we're not talking about actually steering a vehicle. We're just using it as a figurative way to say we're going to go in a specific direction or follow a certain course.
Yep, they're going to gradually move Japan away from using oil and gas. So here in the final paragraph, we wrap things up. It says, whether or not this project reaches its goals, the Fukushima Energy Hub will test how feasible such intensive investments in renewable energy might be and help demonstrate realistic clean energy solutions to the world. So this might be a test project for the rest of the world to pay attention to. We're going to see how feasible these intensive investments could be. Feasible means workable. Are they going to be successful? Is the plan feasible, for example?
Practical.
Right? Is it worth investing in? Intensive means putting a lot of energy and time into something in a short amount of time. Intensive investments. You might take an intensive English course, for example, if you're going to move to Australia or something like that. So yes, it might help demonstrate clean energy solutions to the world. So we'll keep our eyes on Japan and see if this project is successful. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
第三段，日本人越来越不用核电了。我们看第二句，直到福岛核灾后，政府才了解核能的危险。这里有一个 not until 直到什么时候才的用法，它基本上有两种表示方式。第一种用 it 当主词 ，it is not until 再加 that 子句发生什么事，也可以呢把 not until 放在句首后面加助动词，再加主词，再加原形动词。以这句为例，就可以改写为 Not until the Fukushima disaster did the Japanese government comprehend the hazards of nuclear power. 第四段，现行状况是如何呢？第二句，反对者指出来，这计划只有2/3的核能产量。我们来认识一下分数的写法吧。分数呢，分子要念基数，就是 1, 2, 3, 4。那分母要念成序数，就是 first, second, third 等等。如果分子数字超过1，那分母这个序数还要加上 s。例如说1/4就是 1/4， 2/3 2/3。其实也可以不用这么麻烦，我们可以用 over 来表达。例如2/3就念成 2/3。第三句，那这个洁净能源的好处是鼓励进一步的投资在新能源的制造上，而且使日本远离石油和瓦斯。Grid 是网路网格， Iron Grid 就是铁网铁丝网，那全国输电网就可以说 The National Grid。 后面的 steer 是引导驾驶，把什么引导驾驶离开，后面加个介系词 away。例如说，他引导我们回到原来的主题 She steers us back to our original topic。 另外 steer 加上 ing 可以当成形容词，例如 a steering wheel 就是我们车子里面的方向盘。片语 give somebody a steer 给予谁什么建议。 Can you give me a steer？ 你可以给我任何建议吗？我们到结论的地方，无论这个计划是否有达到它的目标，福岛的能源中枢将会测试是怎么样的可行，像这么大的投资。好， whether 是一个副词连接词，后面加一个子句， or not 也可以把它搬到 it goes 的后面。A test 后面加的名词子句是一个间接问句，由how所引导， feasible 是可行性的。以上是今天的讲解，谢谢收听。
That's it, guys. We hope you learned a little bit more about what's going on at Fukushima. It'll be interesting to see if they come up with some good alternative energy plans that we can all use for the future. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.